So, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week was admittedly pretty uneventful in the basketball world, but the NBA season is still inching closer and closer, and as the season continues to approach, we start to have even more storylines to follow, so we definitely still have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Hamza, and he says that the Clippers are actually the team to beat in the Western Conference next season, meaning that he thinks they should be the favorites to finish on top next year. This is definitely a pretty hot take, seeing as the reigning NBA champion Golden State Warriors are still as strong as they were last year while being in the Western Conference, and plenty of other contenders are coming back stronger as well, while the Clippers didn't even make the playoffs last year. But finalizing your opinion on the matter and stopping there ignores a lot of context. For one, Kawhi Leonard missed the entire season last year, and when he's healthy, he's one of the 5 best players in the sport. Obviously, we can't know for sure if he's going to come back and be the same exact player as he was before the injury, but regardless, his return next season is still a massive boost. On top of that, Paul George also missed over 50 games last season, so the Clippers were without their 2 best players for over half the season. And yet they still managed to fight their way into the play-in tournament and almost make it to the playoffs. Injuries aren't something you should be predicting, so the fact that both of those 2 guys are back healthy to start the year for the Clippers already has enough reason to believe that they can be a contender. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that they added John Wall this summer as well. Any longtime viewer of my channel here knows that I've been begging the Clippers to target a playmaking point guard because their team lacked balance by having too many scoring threats without a guy who could connect everything, and at this point in Wall's career, he may not be the dominant scoring threat that he once was, but he's always had tremendous court vision and passing talent to make the lives of those around him easier. I don't think we can call them the favorites right now though, because as is the case with every new look team, we need to see how they actually play together on the court first, but I definitely believe the hype with this team and think they should be one of the top dogs in the West next season. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from CJ, and he says that Zion Williamson is about to have an MVP season this year. Zion Williamson came into the league as one of the most hyped up prospects we have seen in a long time, but since then his journey through the league has been pretty up and down. 2 seasons ago, Zion averaged 27 points per game and dominated the paint at a rate that we hadn't seen since prime Shaquille O'Neal, but then he missed the entirety of last season due to an injury that lingered a lot longer than everyone expected, and now we're once again anticipating his return. Zion absolutely has the talent to be elite in this league, there's no doubt about it, but turning this back into an MVP conversation brings on a ton more context that needs to be taken into account. Zion produced at an elite level when the Pelicans were still rebuilding, so it's fair to ask if he'll maintain that level on a winning team. With the Pelicans looking to make strong progress forward after a playoff berth last year, the question then becomes whether or not Zion will boost the Pelicans to the top of the standings, which is where most MVP candidates lead their teams to. Additionally, we simply cannot ignore his health concerns because he's missed more games than he's played in his 3-year career so far. I personally don't see any way Zion comes close to winning MVP this season because there are just too many elite talents in better positions to take home the award next season, but I don't want people to think that I'm being negative towards Zion because of it, because that's just the reality of the situation. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Mikey, and he says that Karl-Anthony Towns isn't even a top 15 offensive talent in the league, despite Towns' personal belief in himself, and that he's not more talented than his own teammate Anthony Edwards in that regard. So basically this take probably just stems from the fact that Mikey doesn't like it when players act cocky, and Cat calling himself the most talented offensive player in the league can definitely come off as such. But in reality, that's the kind of mentality that top players are supposed to have. If you don't have belief in yourself against anyone else you're about to be matched up with, then you'll never reach the top and dominate to the best of your abilities, because it means you lack confidence in your own abilities. Obviously, Cat is not the most talented offensive player in the league right now, but he is really damn good, and to try to say that he's not even top 15 is pretty crazy. Keep in mind, we're only discussing the offensive side of the ball here, because Cat's defensive work is where he gets knocked in player rankings overall. Cat has always felt pretty underrated by the general public because as a center, he does things we really haven't seen from the position before. He's a consistent 25-point scorer who shoots the ball as well as any big man in NBA history has from the perimeter, while doing so on far more attempts than most centers take from the three-point line. He shot 53% from the field and 41% from three last season, while shooting 5 threes per game. Those are elite numbers, no matter how you try to spin it. Of course, you can knock the fact that Cat doesn't always play as aggressively as he probably should, and he doesn't dominate at the level that Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic do at the position, but he's still really good. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Francis, and he says that Russell Westbrook should come off the bench in order to save his career. So after a long summer of trade rumors, it looks as though Russell Westbrook is remaining with the Lakers this year, and that means we need to go back to figuring out a way to make this team work to the best of its abilities. Most impact metrics showed that the Lakers were much worse when LeBron James and Russell Westbrook shared the court compared to when they were on the court without the other, but they're both starters and key figures on the team, so the issue is that they play a lot of minutes together for obvious reasons. Russ has been a star in this league for a long time, so obviously the concept of benching him would be a tough pill for him to swallow. Ultimately though, I do kind of agree with the idea of him becoming a sixth man, because it really seems as though his best days are behind him. He can still make plays, and he can still put pressure on defenses with his aggression and his facilitation, but the ball realistically needs to be in LeBron's and Anthony Davis's hands pretty often, so if Russ goes to the bench unit, then he can get more touches and run against bench units without getting in everyone else's way. There's no simple answers to this conundrum, but putting Russ as the sixth man seems like one of the few viable ones. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.